Hello there everyone, and welcome to today's chart synthesis session. That is a bit of a tongue twister. I have chosen who I believe to be a very special person. They're no longer with us. His name is Steve Irwin. Now, Steve, for those of you that maybe don't know who he is, because I never presume anything these days, Steve was an incredible activist for humanity, and particularly for Mother Earth, and particularly for marine life. He really walked his talk. He's left an incredible legacy behind in relation to and the awareness he brought, and the revolutionary that he was for doing the right thing by our planet. And this man was really inspiring. So I thought I would share some synthesis tips as we look at Steve's chart. Now, I just want to highlight as well that we have maybe 5 minutes here. Obviously, that's not enough time to do synthesis, but I love to share some tips and ways that we can look at the chart and really drill into the core of who each soul is, and get a good sense and feeling before we even maybe begin a session, or when we're looking or working on our own chart, or when we're looking to learn and understand who we are. So, Steve Irwin's chart, which you can see now. Steve is a Piscean. He has a Virgo moon and a Sagittarian Ascendant. So immediately we feel a lot of mutable energy. Now, I just want to say here, there are many ways of looking at a chart. We can get a lot of information out of working with the Sun, Moon and Ascendant, but I want to share with you where I would like to go first, and that is to understand the personality profile or character of who is this soul. And that, of course, shows us ways to understand not only the amazing gifts, but some of the vulnerability and pain that's still dwelling in the DNA of the soul and is here in this lifetime to be healed. So we immediately identify that Steve has an Aquarian South Node, and we, of course, are always going to consider both Uranus and Saturn, because they are the rulers of Aquarius. But for this purpose, I am just going to talk about Uranus. So we find Uranus up in the 9th house, a fire house of life, in the sign of Leo, another fire sign. So this Uranus is blazing. Those of you that know of Steve, he was a larger than life character, and his inspiration and passion was truly infectious. So, you know, right off the bat, here we see this beautiful sense of spirit that dwelled within Steve's soul. So, you know, he was all about, you know, everything that he talked about, you know, even the births of his children. He spoke about love and the importance of love. And, you know, here is Uranus in Leo. And yet in the 9th house, looking to elevate, find higher ground, see a bigger picture, meaning and belonging. You know, that doesn't always feel like a 9th house thing, meaning certainly, but finding where we belong, that's a 9th house thing too. So anyway, we have this beautiful Uranian electricity running through his veins. And also, you know, from an evolutionary nodal perspective, you know, Uranus can be the outcast, it can be very marginal, it's certainly the revolutionary, it has a radical approach. And we know that Steve ticks all the boxes here. We also see that he has a big stellium hanging around his South Node. Now, I'm going to be giving a talk for OPA on February 15th 10:30 Melbourne, Sydney time. And I am going to be using Steve's chart as one of the examples of working with the lunar Saros. I tell you, it's mind-blowing. But I am going to be doing more work with Steve's chart if anyone's interested in tuning in. But for now, we know that stelliums are intense. Stelliums are really big energies. And so again, we know there's a big energy, and that Aquarius is all about speaking one's truth and going against the flow, and really, you know, not being modified. So, you know, he carries, you know, this strong stamp of Aquarius, and so he is a little bit of a rebel. He is going to do things on his terms, and he is certainly different. Steve has Jupiter and Mars hanging around this node, and so certainly leadership, confidence, you know, the courage to step up and have faith in knowing that he's got some pretty important humanitarian work to do in this lifetime. You know, all these things I'm saying, I'm sure, you know, if we just talked about Steve Irwin, we would be saying exactly what I'm saying now, and I am just purely tapping into the energies of his chart. You know, he has Sag rising, and just to, you know, of course, the ascendant, again, he had such a happy-go-lucky, optimistic, positive approach. But even more than that, Sagittarius once more, and he really showed up in the world in that way. And like, we're straight back at the nodal story, because he has Jupiter there on his node, which is ruling the way he shows up in the world, his personality, his sense of identity, and, you know, the skip in his step as to how the world's, well, how, you know, he would shine his light out into the world. So, you know, we've got this strong Aquarian beat to his own drum with this big, intense stellium. Uranus, larger than life in Leo, about the development of his confidence and his creativity and his approval of his self as he heals in his own journey. And of course we have, as I said, Sag rising, ruled by Jupiter, taking us back to the South Node. Now Steve is a Piscean, and Pisces energy is, well, you know, how long do we have? I feel like, you know, here is someone really elevating their consciousness. And also, I believe part of his mission was to connect on a bigger scale to the collective, and really support people to elevate their own consciousness through the work he did. He was such a humanitarian, and his love for the marine life and the work that he did and the legacies, of course, he left. He was inspiring, and he did have a vision. And I'm sure, you know, he had a lot of self-doubt, but he definitely never gave up, and he showed what it is to stick to what you truly know and trust your intuition. He also, of course, has Neptune, which is in a square aspect, you know, again indicating the importance of not letting the clouds get in the way of, you know, defining who he is in this lifetime, and not sacrificing himself or being invisible. Well, he certainly wasn't that. And, you know, that reminds me of the outpouring, you know, when he passed, you know, they had to get a sports stadium to hold a funeral in, and he had a very special funeral that was honoured by the whole country, and I'm sure, in fact, the whole world. I'm sure he would have been quite blown away. You know, the strong, mutable energy that is present in his chart. You know, mutability is about, you know, certainly rolling with the change and being able to really, you know, be the ideas person and communicate that. And of course, because of time, I'm just going to finish by talking about Steve's moon. He has a Virgo moon in the 10th house. And so if we think about each of the planets being how the flowers open, you know, his ability to reach many, and also to be of service to humanity. And I really feel like he was doing that, and I believe that his need to really clear the decks, simplify, purify, and be left with what was truly important as a mentor and as a guide was a big part of his mission in this lifetime, and how the world certainly saw him. So hats off to Steve Irwin. There's so much more to share, and I hope that this little synthesis has been interesting for all of you. Please, any comments, I'd love to hear them as always. And until soon, take care everyone. Bye for now.